Good afternoon. Welcome to today's reading. We are looking at whether a connection you currently have is worth continuing. Is it worth it? Should you stay or should you go? This can be a romantic connection, a friendship, a business partnership, anyone else you are thinking about. I am putting out the intention to focus on relationships today, but it's possible you could get messages here about whether it's worth it to continue something else. So let's take a closer look at each of your options so we can get straight into the readings. I'm going to show you the Two of Swords from each of these decks to further help you make your choice. Let's take a look. For group one, we have Bloodstone. We are using the Tarot of the Witch's Garden, and this is the Two of Swords. For group two, we have Celestite. We are using the Fairy Tale Tarot, and this is the Two of Swords. For group three, we have Dioptase. We are using the Desert Illuminations Tarot, and this is the Two of Swords. For group four, we have Clear Quartz. We are using the Skeleton Tarot, and this is the Two of Swords. Okay, take all the time you need to choose. I'm going to jump right in with the first group now, so feel free to pause this video if you need to, and meet me in your reading when you're ready. Hi, group one, you chose the Bloodstone, this Two of Swords from the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. Welcome to your reading. We're going to start with these oracle cards that I have over here as an energy check to sort of look at the current energies and see if we can get some information for you so that you know that this is your group. And if it turns out it is not your group, do not be afraid to choose again. So I am going to set the tarot aside. We will get back to that. Let's take a look at your oracle cards and get the current energies. Again, we're looking today into whether a connection is worth it, still worth it, and whether to stay or go. So let's take a look and see what we have for you. We have 36, sensuality. The frequency of sensuality reminds us that as spirits in human bodies, we are sensual beings experiencing joy and pleasure from the physical world through our senses. We have number 10, every step counts. There is an advantage in taking things slowly. Breathe deeply and fully as you consider your options. We have cowrie shells, passion, feminine power, the number 19. Rhodonite, find a way to forgive. And we have dragon. Why can I never say that? Beware of self-delusion. Let me just make sure that these are somewhat centered here. Okay, so for this group number one, this could definitely be your group if you are in a romantic situation, though I'm sure romantic situations will come up in the other groups, but there's a lot of physical energy here, not only with sensuality, but, and then we have feminine power and the way that these cowrie shells look. And there's just the yellows and the reds and the pinks are making me think there's a lot of physical energy. So I would say most people here probably have a physical relationship with the person on their mind, or they have had a physical relationship, or they're wondering if it will get physical. And that might be part of the reason you're wondering if you should stay or leave. So this could be a friends with benefits situation, a situationship, or an actual relationship. It could be someone you just have the hots for and that you haven't yet got together, but there's definitely attraction energy here and physical chemistry I'm picking up. And so it is unlikely that this is your group if you're thinking of someone that you don't have these energies with. But yeah, there's too much energy here for me to think that this is a family member or a business associate or something like that. It certainly could be, but there's just a lot of physical energy coming forward. Some of you have dealt with betrayal with this person, or you worry that they are lying to you or have betrayed you in some way, because we have forgiveness here, we have self-delusion, and then because there's all this physical and attraction energy, there's that feeling of, you know, when you're really into somebody or you really even just like someone as a person. And so it makes it sometimes hard to see whether or not they have like bad or toxic traits, or if they do something like quote unquote bad, you kind of want to brush it under the rug in a way because you really like the person or you're really into the person. For some of you, things have moved really fast with this individual, and it may have been hard to get your bearings. If you are really attracted to this person, it feels like it's sort of clouding you, or there's something about the relationship to this person that makes things kind of cloudy and hard to see. And so that's some of the struggle here with you of whether this is going to be worth it, because you're having trouble seeing clearly, because either there is the attraction part of it where like when someone's really hot, it's kind of hard sometimes to see things clearly. But if this isn't someone that you are physically involved with in this way, there is something about them or the relationship with them that is clouding your vision, because they are either very charismatic or they're very complimentary. There could be some love bombing energy here, or a fear that there is love bombing. I don't know that that's necessarily happening. We have, 36 in numerology reduces down to 9. We have a 9 right here. And so the 9s are making me think like the end of a cycle, but then we also have a 1 and we have another 1, and that's the beginning of a cycle. So there's like these endings and beginnings. And so that can be a couple of different things. What's coming to mind, first of all, is that this relationship to this person feels like it could be a cycle for you. And so you're wondering, am I doing the same thing that I have done? Is this a pattern? Or am I breaking out of an old cycle and starting a new one? For others of you, it feels like there are fits and starts with this relationship where things kind of move forward and then move back, move forward, move back, or like a lot of makeup breakup energy, or you think you're moving forward and then it stalls. I'm seeing like a lot of metaphors with like a car, like someone continuously trying to start it. And it could also be like you keep, some of you keep being like kind of done with this. You're like, I'm done with this. But then you're like, maybe I need to give it a chance. I'm also getting some energy here that some of you think that things have been your fault, or not even that you necessarily even think it's your fault, but that you continue to sort of blame yourself. So like this person does something weird or red flaggy in your opinion, and you get maybe a little bit upset or annoyed or something. And then they kind of talk themselves out of it. And then you're like, oh, maybe I made a big deal out of nothing. Or you're like, well, I did this, so it makes sense they did that because that probably hurt their feelings. Like there's something here with you thinking it's more about you than it is them. But I actually don't think that that's necessarily the case. It does seem for some of you, you're unsure if you're sort of deluding yourself, or if there have been real red flags. And, I don't see a lot of red here, and that doesn't mean there aren't red flags, but like, it just seems like things are kind of cloudy, and that sometimes you feel really clear, and then sometimes you feel less clear, or like, you're like, this person's not good for me. Something is unhealthy here. And then the next day it's like, oh, why did I even think that? Like they're wonderful and they do these nice things for me. But you're either afraid that you are deluding yourself, or you do need to be aware of self-delusion, because there could very well be red flags here, because also the fact that it's coming up so strongly does make me think that this may be a case where someone is unhealthy for you, but I don't want to make that like proclamation without looking at the tarot and getting more information. But also, beware of self-delusion, but then also find a way to forgive. So it seems like, if someone did something to betray you, it's possible that it's time to forgive them and move forward. And that, with every step counts and taking things slowly, it could be that you just need to slow down because things might be moving too fast. And if you slow down, things will be more clearer. And this person, may or may not be good for you, but slowing down would be a really good way to see, because I think that things keep moving really quickly, but it's partly because of your chemistry with this person, whether that's physical chemistry or another kind of chemistry. But also these cowrie shells here are making me think too that for some of you, this person has a lot of options, they keep a lot of options around intentionally. That could be the case, or you are afraid they do or you think they do. It does feel sort of like there's some competition here a little bit, or you're worried that you're just like another link in their chain or something, and you wonder if you are special. And also with the forgiveness, it could be that if you are meant to walk away, you're also meant to forgive yourself for making this decision and forgive this person for the things that they did. But again, I don't want to get too far into that because I want to see what the tarot says. So hopefully this gives you an idea of whether or not this is your reading. So let's just get right into the tarot. Oops. So what we're looking at today is what is likely to change if you continue this relationship, and what is unlikely to change if you continue. Then we will look at the likely outcome if you leave and how that will affect you short and long term. And then we'll look at the likely outcome if you stay in this relationship and how that will also affect you short and long term. Whoops. And then just some final advice. Anything else your guides might want you to know in making this decision. So let's get straight into it, group one. So for group one, what is likely to change in this relationship over time if they stay in it? 7 of Pentacles. 10 of Wands. What is unlikely to change? 5 of Swords. 5 of Pentacles. Okay. Well, the first thing that is coming to mind, again, I need to say in every reading that this isn't about gender just because these are two women. But these women or these people in these two cards on what is likely to change, they look so independent and they look like they are making their own decisions and they are looking out for their loved ones and, making choices that are in alignment with what they want and what they need. So this makes me think of you, and that if you stay in this relationship, whatever is to happen in it, you are going to get stronger, and you are going to be very clear about what you need and what you want. And with this 7 of Pentacles, with her reading cards here, it does seem like you might find yourself seeking the advice of the spiritual realm, your spirit guides, tarot readers, psychics, friends who have these kinds of gifts, and also nature. So you're looking more for truth in the places that you can find truth. So it's interesting because it does seem like what changes is that you change. You change in this relationship if you continue. Things become more and more clear for you. Your values, your interests, your skills, what is important to you. If you do have children and pets, there's a baby here and this little fox. And so you will do what you need to protect those who are in your care, who need protection. And so that would be animals or children probably. And it seems like, with this person's interesting clothes and this person with all of her fire here, there's a sense of feeling a lot more power, independence, knowing of yourself, authenticity. Yeah. And interestingly too, they both have these sort of curly Q tattoos on their arms. And so I think too, there's something here about self-expression and being yourself. And so also this figure has left this home in the background and has shown up on someone else's doorstep. And so it is leading me to believe that you might end up not wanting to remain in this situation. That's certainly possible. But whatever happens with this other person and with this situation is that you are going to get stronger. You're going to be more in tune with yourself. You're going to be more aware of your values and whether or not your needs are being met and whether or not those in your care have their needs being met. And if you don't have children, if you don't have pets, if no one is in your care or you don't have plants or anything that you're taking care of, then it's about taking care of yourself and your inner child. There's something here about that. And so if you stay in this relationship, you are going to change. That's what's changing. I don't know that the relationship is going to change other than it becomes more clear and you become more clear and you change. And it is very possible that you will consider leaving down the line if you haven't already. And I think that you already have considered leaving. I mean, we're looking at a stay or go reading, so I'm sure you have. But I do think that the energies here are leading me to believe that many of you will eventually walk away in order to live a life more in alignment with what is right for you, even when it feels hard, because the 10 of Wands can be about a burden. The 7 of Pentacles can be about having to continue when you've already put a lot of work in. And so it can feel like a slog. And so I think that whatever you choose to do when you have clarity, it may still feel very hard. But when we look over here at what is unlikely to change if you continue, here's another reason that I don't think that this is necessarily a healthy or happy relationship for you, and that it's not going to contribute to your overall health and happiness, because we have these 2 5s, the 5 of Swords and the 5 of Pentacles, neither one of them being particularly happy cards. So because this is what's unlikely to change if you stay in this relationship or stay knowing this person, is the bad things continue. So whatever has not been good is going to continue. And also there are clearly negative energies here that are impacting you. So that just doesn't feel very good to me. And it's almost like we could stop the reading here and I'm like, leave that. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to do the whole reading. But, the 5 of Pentacles is like here. Okay. So in these 2 cards over here, we have you kind of standing alone and protecting those that you need to protect. And there's all this color and vibrancy and you like kind of coming home to yourself and figuring things out and having clarity and trusting in your intuition. And over here is where we have you and another person or multiple other people. And so this is where you're more in quote unquote alignment with this person on your mind. And it's not looking very good. You're struggling. Okay, so if we look at these 2, they're both outside and they're both like wearing these kind of heavy cloaks and prepared for the weather. But over here, you are colorful and you are walking into a warm place and yes, it's kind of scary, but you're determined to get there and everything's fine. But here, you don't know if you're going to make it. There's a window, but you can't see through it. There's no door to get in. You're just kind of slogging through. And it feels like, regardless of your gender again, but if you are the more feminine figure in these cards, and I'm not saying you are more feminine, but just because we're looking at these cards, you're sort of having to drag this other person along. You're the one moving forward. You're the one looking ahead and trying to make things better. And this person is slowing you down. And also, I think, if we look at this 5 of Swords and this is you here, this person is being aggressive towards you. This person is controlling, and it could be in ways that are not as obvious in this card because, this person here, she is, not yelling. She's not screaming. But she's stern and she's scary. And this person is on the ground here and she's in control. So it does make me think that the person that you're asking about has some control over the situation, whether or not they are manipulative or whether or not they are being controlling. They definitely seem to have control over you in some way, or they have more control in this relationship. And this person in the background makes me think that there are people in your life that see that. So I don't know if you have friends or family or other people that have been warning you about this person, or have been saying like, I don't like this person for you, or they're making me uncomfortable, or that was kind of weird, or that was kind of a red flag, or you're going to have people starting to say that. But I'll be honest, like the energy here isn't really positive for you two being involved with one another. And I think that there's been a few red flags for me so far, like how it feels like things have moved really quickly, how it feels like you've been sort of cloudy and haven't been able to know what to do, how it feels like there are fits and starts and inconsistency, and then how what would not change in the relationship is negative stuff. So negative stuff just is a underlying thread to the course of this relationship and to the core of it. And then what is likely to change is you being more and more powerful and filled with life and color. So, that says a lot to me. So let's look at the outcome if you do leave. And I do want to let you know, outcomes can always change. When we are looking at tarot or something like this, outcomes are just sort of what the current energies look like. So just know that things can change, but let's look at what things currently look like. So let's pull some cards for what the outcome is if you leave in the short and long term. And then we'll do the outcome if you stay and how that will feel in the short and long term. And so let's take a look. So for group 1, outcome if they leave short term. Hanged Woman. And long term. Two of Swords. And outcome if group 1 stays. How will that feel in the short term? Two of Cups. And how will that feel in the long term? The Eight of Cups. I want to clarify the Two of Swords here. The Fool. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so if you leave this relationship, in the short term, it's going to, positive and negative, it's going to kind of flip your perspective. So it might feel like suddenly life feels upside down. So this particular Hanged Man card or Hanged Woman card, it feels a little bit darker. And so I think if you leave this relationship and actually make that choice to walk away at this time, the short-term outcome does have you feeling kind of alone, turned around, upside down. Like, I don't know if you can see her eyes, but, they're just white. They're sort of glazed over. And so it might feel like you have less clarity than you've ever had before. It might feel like you're hanging by a thread emotionally. It could feel like everything is sort of flipped around and turned around and has you feeling sort of uncomfortable and upset and not in the place that you want to be and uncertain. And yet there is also with the Hanged Man card where a new perspective comes and that it can be a delay, like it may take some time. So short term could feel longer than you would like it. So if you left and walked away and had to deal with the fallout of that, the personal emotional fallout of that and the mental fallout, it might feel like that lasts longer than you would like it to. And that kind of sucks, honestly, but it's not surprising because when you leave behind something, whether it is good or bad, if you've had a lot of yourself invested in it or a lot of hope invested in it, it can be really upsetting, but that is short term. And then when we look at the long term with the Two of Swords and the Fool, it's interesting because when I look at this Two of Swords right now, it makes me think of protection and self-protection and like self-defense, but then the Fool is completely defenseless. Well, you know what? No, this Fool has this like axe, hatchet type of thing. I don't know what that is. It looks like a little axe. So long term, I think that this relationship affects you. And by leaving, you're able to build up your defenses and your protection in a way that sometimes might feel like you're too heavily guarded. And yet there's this duality between feeling like you're that way, but also being open to new connections and new experiences without being afraid of them, but just being prepared. So I think in the long term, you might go through this like overcorrection where you try to go within. She's got her eyes covered here, and you protect yourself and you kind of cross off yourself to other energies, and you spend the time kind of going within and investigating what you saw in this person, why you pursued this relationship, what you were needing and looking for, and all of these things. And also, I think because the 2 is really standing out, and because we were getting messages about sort of an inner child, I think that part of your healing will be about reintegrating your inner child and having your sort of adult and child selves come together in a way so that you are more protected and acting from a more unified place. And as you do that healing and reach that place, you will carry your protection with you while being open to the world, to experience, to other people, and not letting any of your negative experiences stop you from being open and trying new things and being around new people. But you will carry that protection with you in a way that ensures that this doesn't happen again. And also, this Fool has these books as well. And so it's like you are learning knowledge. You have this knowledge that you carry forward. And like this book is tossed aside here on this path. So it's like you had ideas about things that you are able to remove from your like field of knowing or belief system. And these I see these 2 roses here too. So it's like you've abandoned some romantic ideal or something. And it's not that you can't have your romantic ideal or your friendship ideal or whatever it is. It's not that you can't have that, but you're going to basically go through a process where you're more in tune with your own truth and the truth of what you need and want. And instead of sort of living by these idealized versions of things, you are stronger, more capable, more open, but also more protected. And you no longer believe in, if this person was love bombing you, you see right through that. So in the long term, you are capable of beginning again as a new, fresh start, a new, fresh cycle where there's an innocence to it and an openness, and yet things you didn't know before. And so now you can go into things with a stronger, clearer mindset, but also have that innocence and hope for love and connection that is sweet. And there is nothing wrong with that. And it will open you up to connections that will be more stabilizing and more healthy and more good, but also have all of the joy and the cuteness and the sweetness of new connection and connection with people who really mean something. So I think if you leave, it's going to be a little destabilizing, but it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. You're going to be fine. You're going to come out of it a lot better. And then you're going to be open to something that is way more meant for you. And so if you stay in this relationship with this person, in the short term, 2 of Cups looks pretty good, right? Who doesn't want 2 of Cups? It can be such a romantic card, but it's also a card of feeling really connected to someone and being on the same page and things going really well and feeling understood and loved and cared for. And, this particular 2 of Cups looks pretty romantic to me, which again, I think most of you are dealing with a romantic situation, but short term, if you stay, seems like it feels pretty good. Like you're connected, you're on the same page, you're feeling like you don't feel lonely, you don't feel cast aside, you feel connected and understood and loved. And so in the short term, why wouldn't you choose it? Because it seems to feel so good. But long term, if you stay, this changes quite dramatically. Suddenly you go from being partnered to completely alone and walking away. So this leads me to believe yet again, okay, that if you stay in this relationship, no matter what, you're going to leave. So you can choose to leave sooner or later. I'm going to tell you from my own experience, it is best to leave sooner, but we all make those mistakes. I think it can be really hard to see clearly. And when we as human beings crave connection and find what feels like real connection with other people, it is so impossible to let that go, even when we can tell it is unhealthy for us. So long term, no matter what, you are going to choose to walk away, and you're going to gather your strength and do that. So there is no staying forever, I don't think. But the thing is that how it feels long term is pretty lonely. And so I think that, the sooner you leave, yes, you're still sort of alone. This doesn't mean you're alone forever. I mean, there are other companions here, but there's an optimism. There's a knowing that there's going to be partnership and connection and companionship. There's a feeling strong and alive and ready versus staying in this. And when you walk away feeling sort of depressed and sad and like the burden of leaving feels like it's longer lasting, and having to process what you went through is going to be longer lasting. And, these cups just feel empty. It's like you're being given so much, but it's empty. So that makes me think about, I had a dream once after walking away from someone, and I won't tell you the whole dream, but basically this person in the dream had like come back and was trying to sort of make things right in the like worst, most shallow way possible. But like they kept offering me things, but it was all empty. It was like, I'm hungry. Oh yeah, you can have anything in my fridge. First of all, you have to get it yourself and make everything yourself. But it was like I'd cut into a vegetable and there'd be nothing inside. It was like every offer was empty. And so in this case, when you leave this person after staying, like if you choose to stay and then one day you leave, you are going to realize how many things they offered you that were empty, that had no substance, no value, that were there to keep you around, or because this person just doesn't know how to offer anything of value. So I don't know how to make it more clear. I really thought that there would be a lot more information here, but it's just been very clear from the start. And I think that says to me that for you, you're also going to realize one day it was always very clear from the start. But I think our clarity can be very confused by certain energies and certain people, whether they're doing it to us intentionally or not. And so I think that, is this relationship worth it? No. And like, I wasn't planning on telling you to stay or leave. I was going to let you make that decision. And of course it is still your decision to make. I certainly can't make it for you, but I don't think you should stay. But I am going to get some final advice. Anything else your guides might want you to know. This can be about this situation. That's my intention, but sometimes advice comes out about entirely other things. So we'll find out what happens. So for group one, can we get some final advice? Anything else that group one needs to know? The Tower. The Eight of Wands. And the Hermit. Okay, so I think for a lot of you, the energies have been pretty tumultuous or chaotic, or you have a sense that it's going to go that way. And this Tower card really makes me feel like it's time to let it crumble, basically. Stop trying to save it. Because I think for some of you, you keep trying to do things right. You keep trying to take responsibility for things or take blame for things, or keep trying to even pretend to yourself that things are not as bad as they seem. And you've been sort of trying to hold things together or be very stabilizing or reliable or wonderful in some way for this person. And yet it's not up to you to provide a foundation for both of you. They have to put in the work too. And I don't see that this person is capable of doing that. I don't even see that this person is like bad, but I just, because we weren't necessarily looking into that, it's more about the energies and how they are affecting you. And if this is romantic, this isn't the person you're meant to spend your life with. And if it's not romantic, it's the same thing. I mean, we have these different people that are sort of meant for the long term, and people that can't make it long term because of whatever is going on with them or the dynamics between us or whatever. And it doesn't have to be their fault. But I do get the sense that there is a lot of spiritual energy around you, and that your spirit guides and those that guide you and watch out for you and love you, and even the physical people, the people around you that love you, they don't want to see you go through this kind of pain. And I think that you are very smart. A lot of people here are incredibly intuitive people. A lot of you are introspective and you take the time to look within, and a lot of you are very spiritually connected. And yet something with this relationship or this person has thrown you off balance and thrown you off course a little bit. And it might be because it has felt exciting, or because you're attracted to them, or you were lonely and they offered love and companionship, or there's a myriad of reasons that this has come to be. But I think that a lot of you feel like you're not even acting like yourselves, or people around you think you're not acting like yourself because of this. And, I just get so much energy here of spirit guides looking out for you. And while this is like flames coming through the top of this tree house, it looks like a face to me. It looks like a little eye, like an animal, a nose, a mouth. I don't know if you can see that, and whiskers. And it makes me think you have some kind of like spirit guide or spirit animal sort of watching out for you. And part of the way that this guide watches out for you is by showing you that this person isn't right for you, by causing destruction and chaos and making it easier for you to see that it's not going to be calm and easy. Basically, the way that's sort of coming through to me is like, you could be involved with someone who's not healthy for you, but it could seem healthy for a really long time so that you could sort of build a foundation or whatever. And then it is like shocking when it all comes down. And while there is shock here, it's like they've been showing you things. It's like, okay, you notice when that person lies, just notice that. Okay. And then notice this other thing they did. And did they do something to betray you? Notice that. It's like they're trying to show you these things sooner so that you can make the decision to leave, because they don't want you to get trapped in this treehouse that's just going to burn down. And so they're trying to sort of burn it down a little bit faster for you as a gift so that you don't stay in this too long and waste your time. And then we have these like badgers down here that also feel like guides in this fairy. And they're like, don't worry, we've got you. We're going to crash this down so that we can help you move towards something that is more correct and meaningful for you. And I get the sense that there are some people here who have spent a long time alone and haven't wanted to be. And so it's like, how much longer do I have to be a hermit? How much longer do I have to do all of this on my own? And so I think that sometimes we want to rush the process, because it's like, okay, let's take action and get people in our lives because we don't want to spend any more time alone. It's that kind of energy of like getting involved with the wrong person because you're trying to rush it. And it makes me, and I think that you have a knowing, and you have had a knowing that this isn't right for you. And I'm just here to hopefully confirm that for you. It's possible that you've listened to this whole thing and this isn't your reading, and that's fine. But for some of you, I'm just reiterating what you already know to be true, but it's just been really, really hard to make that decision because you're caught in a fog, or you're caught in a hope. I think a lot of times we maintain this hope for people that are not going to change for the better, or are only going to get worse. And then the pain stays with us because that hope lingers for so long afterward. And I think a lot of you are caught up in that. And we all have been, when we had hope for someone or something to be what it promised to be, and then it wasn't. And it can be really hard to let go of that idea because it was often promised to us. And so I think you're going to have to see the truth of this situation, and that it's not necessarily going to be easy, but I will say the energies aren't as difficult here as I sometimes see them to be, and that you are always going to be okay, especially if you are in touch with yourself and in tune with yourself and in tune with the things that you want. And the more you take care of yourself and you tune into your spirituality, your spirit guides, your intuition, your gut, your knowing, and yourself and what is important to you, your needs and your values. A lot of you, it really is important to become very, very clear about your values when it comes to relationships, because that's going to be really, really helpful for you moving forward. But the more clear you become, the quicker you're going to feel protected and safe and able to move forward. And while it sucks, it does seem that in this particular case, if this is your reading, you're involved with someone who isn't healthy for you, and you're not meant to continue this, although it is always your choice. So that's all I'm going to say. Group 1, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great week. I hope everything works out for you, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Celestite and this Two of Swords from the Fairy Tale Tarot. Welcome to your reading. We are looking into whether a connection is still worth it and whether to stay or go. So I'm actually going to start with these oracle cards here on the left to look at the current energies to serve as an energy check to make sure that you are in the right group. And if you are not in the right group, feel free to choose another. I'm going to set the tarot aside and we will shuffle and get into that after we do the energy check. So let's see what cards you have here. We have 7, the 7th chakra. The energy of the crown chakra supports our feeling of being connected to a higher power and part of a larger whole. We have number 11, persistent drive. See what you desire and move toward that goal. It is time to zero in on your purpose. Use your intuition and instincts to guide you for the optimal outcome. We have number 29, bottle tree, mediation, intercession. Angelite, support is all around you. And hat, you will be playing a different role. Wow. Okay. So there's very, very spiritual energy here. And not only throughout all 5 of these cards, but the fact that you chose the Celestite, and this is also that, which is a pretty spiritual stone as far as I'm concerned. And then also the fact that you chose this Fairy Tale Tarot with this light blue color. And blue, when we talk about chakras, can be throat chakra, but I also sometimes associate it with your third eye and your crown chakra. And there's a lot of spiritual energy in those higher chakras. So, the biggest thing that is coming forward here is this really, really strong spiritual energy. So this could be that you are very spiritually in tune yourself. You're a very spiritual person, or you are very psychic, intuitive, or gifted, or you are working on your intuition or some kind of spiritual pursuit at this time. Because we're talking about a relationship and whether you should stay or go, it is possible that some of you are questioning your spirituality and your connection to the divine, your connection to spirit guides, or connection to angels or a passed on loved one, or your connection to a spiritual center or a spiritual person or someone that you have a strong spiritual link with. Somehow it all comes back to spirituality and intuition. Interestingly, I think some of you are here and you don't even have a relationship in mind. You're more wondering about a spiritual pursuit of some kind, or you do have a relationship in mind, and yet every time you try to find information about that, you end up getting information about your intuition or your spirituality or your spiritual connection. So if you're not relating at all to any of this, that is perfectly fine. You might find yourself in another group. Sometimes we choose the wrong one first, but hopefully you know if this is your group or not. But this can also be, spiritual love with another human being. So feeling you have a really strong spiritual connection. I think this is going to be, once we get into tarot, I don't know what's going to come out, but I think that some of you here are talking about an actual relationship to another person. And some of you here are wondering more about whether to stay or go with a spiritual pursuit, whether you are on the right track. That really seems to be a strong energy here. So, but I do want to, again, just reiterate where I'm seeing all this spiritual energy. So with all of the blue, angelites, I don't know a lot about angelite, but it sure looks a lot like celestite. And support is all around you. That makes me think there are angels around you and spirit guides around you and maybe passed on loved ones. Hat brings us back. Look, we've got pink here in both of these. Brings us back to the crown chakra because you wear this on your head where the crown chakra is located. And it says you will be playing a different role. So that also makes me think something is changing for you and something with your spiritual or intuitive gifts is blooming. And so something about what you've been doing, if you've been following a certain spiritual pursuit or career path or certain kinds of relationships, something is going to be changing there. And I don't think that this is necessarily going to come down to should you stay or should you go, but that there are going to hopefully be messages in here that help you to feel like you know where you're going or that you're on the right path, or to somehow help you make decisions about what to change and what not to change. And while this says mediation here, I keep thinking meditation. And this bottle tree is like opening up to the universe. You know, it's going higher. And then we have the 11 here, as well as the 29, which reduces down to 11 in numerology. And 11 can be both a number of partnership or your relationship to another person or another thing, as well as spirituality and spiritual love. We have the crown chakra, which is about your spiritual connection, and then see what you desire and move toward that goal. It's time to zero in on your purpose. Use your intuition and instincts. So again, it talks about intuition and trusting your gut and instincts, but also talks again about your purpose and a goal. So I think a lot of you are here for something that is not relationship related, or if you came here about a relationship, you're realizing your spirit guides don't want to talk about that. And that does happen to me. So I'm not surprised it's happening to you. So I don't need to dive any further into that. I think let's get right into the tarot. So let's get this back into the deck. I am going to shuffle these cards and let you know what we're taking a look at. So we're going to start with what is likely to change if you continue on this path or in this relationship. What is unlikely to change if you continue. We'll look at what the outcome is if you choose to leave in the short and the long term. We'll look at the outcome if you choose to stay, how that will feel in the short and long term. And then we'll get any additional advice, anything else your spirit guides want you to know. So group 2, this is an interesting group. Let's see if we can get some information that is helpful. So for group 2, what is likely to change if they continue down this path? 7 of Swords. The 10 of Wands. What is unlikely to change if group 2 continues down this path? What is likely to stay the same? Won't change. 7 of Cups. 3 of Wands. So let's start here. So when we look at what is likely to change, if you continue down this path, and again, I think it is different for some of you, but it seems like what is going to change is that certain things are going to you're going to become aware of certain things. So you're going to become more aware of the things that are not working, the energies that do not serve you, whether that is people or other things. If this is a work pursuit, because I think for some of you it is, you'll become more and more aware of the things that aren't working for you and don't make you happy and that don't feel right. And so that will I don't know if you will end up leaving this behind or just changing it, but you will become more and more aware of what's right and what's not, what feels good and what doesn't feel good, what's positive, what's negative, and where there may be people or energies that are not helpful to you. So it's kind of like you start to see where you feel sort of trapped, because I think that an overall energy here, whether you're dealing with a person or something else, is that you have been feeling sort of trapped or stuck. There's a feeling of this isn't quite right. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's them. I don't know if it's it. There's this underlying sense of like, I just don't know if this is the right thing to be doing. And I don't know if anything is going to come out of this, if I'm even putting work toward the right things, if I'm being true to myself. And so it's interesting because there's sort of a sneaky energy a little bit. It's not being very clear to me what that is. It's just that there is a sneaky energy and that you're going to become more and more aware of it. For some of you, it's a subconscious thing. You're going to start to become, if you continue on this path, you're going to start to become aware of the things within you that are, I don't want to say negative because that's not really what it is, but like, you know how sometimes we can have like subconscious beliefs or subconscious feelings or judgments or thoughts about things or people or ourselves. And so, for example, something that could happen if you continue down this path is that you start to become made aware of subconscious things going on within you that are sort of thwarting your progress and thwarting your ability to have what you want in life or what you want in relationships. And so it's like, when I look at this 10 of Wands, it feels like she's like hoping that she's done all this work and she's hoping it's going to work out. And like, and then we have this little person in the background kind of like spying. And so it makes me think this is subconscious. Like, you're doing all this work, you're doing all this hoping, all this like work to change yourself or change your circumstances. And you don't understand why it's like not really working. You're still hoping. There's still an energy of lack. I hope I'm making sense, but I also see this rope here and it's like, where does this rope lead? And this little like mouse, I don't know. There's just so much energy in this card of like things you're not quite noticing because you're focusing on the conscious and focusing on what you're trying to get done and accomplish. And while you are accomplishing things, you seem to be missing things. And so what's going to change as you continue down this path, if you choose to do that, is you're going to start to become aware of the things you weren't aware of before, the things that are holding you back, the things that are thwarting you, the beliefs that lie within you that are lying to you about you, such as you're not worthy of this, you're not good enough for this. And it's like secrets hidden under the surface are going to become clear for you. And if you are dealing with a person, it's like the things that haven't been making sense are going to start to make sense. That's what changes. And, and then there is a sense of power that comes from that. But there's this, this whole deck is very dreamy and almost feels like psychedelic when you look really close. It's like, oh, this tree branch is also like a crocodile. It's like you start to see little faces in the rocks and the vines and things. And so again, this leads me to thinking that there is going to be power for you in understanding the subconscious or letting these things sort of come to the surface. And because I think that this group is highly intuitive, your intuitive abilities are going to expand and become stronger and more clear. And so with that comes a greater understanding of like other worlds is the term that's coming to mind. And so you're going to start to understand things that you didn't really understand before, or you're going to see a new depth to things that may even feel confusing. And yet it is opening you up to new things, new perspectives, and new insights about yourself, about the world, about everything, about reality. There's such a magic here, but it's a strange magic because it's like you have to go deep to find it. It's not as like light, bright, like angelic spirit guide energy that is here. And yet you're going to, if you go down this path, if you continue down this path, it draws you deeper within yourself, deeper within the unconscious, more in tune with the things that are sort of running the show. It's like, it's like I see an old, huge clock, and you see like the minute hand and the second hand, like the hands are ticking, and then you open it up and you see all the gears making this clock work. It's like, you understand how to read time, okay? You've learned how to read time, and that makes sense to you, and you can base your day off of the ability to read time, and yet now you're getting a look at the gears and how it all works. Like, you're getting a deeper look into things and learning things that you may never have realized were even there. So what's changing is you and the core of you. You're getting closer to the core of you, the core of the truth. And this feels kind of weird and confusing to talk about, and I wonder if it's even making sense to anybody, because it's not really straightforward. And I think because this path you're going down is not straightforward, and whether you're dealing with a person or not, I don't think the person really has that much effect on things, because I think what it comes down to really is that you're going on an investigation of yourself and of truth, whatever that means to you. It certainly is spiritually connected, intuitively connected, but you're going on a trip of some kind, a travel, a journey into the core of you, into the core of truth. And I don't know how else to say that. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now, if you continue down this path, what is unlikely to change? What is likely to stay more the same? It's weird because even though these cards are so different and I haven't really looked at them, I've just glanced at them, I'm getting so much of the same energy. It's just the same thing. So the first thing that tells me is, no matter what you do, if you continue down this path, things are going to become clear to you as you journey along this path. And it's like, I'm seeing you started out, like you had your backpack, you have all the things you think you need, you have this idea of what you're going to find as you walk down this path, this spiritual path, or whatever it is that you're calling it. And then you trip and fall, and you just are like rolling downhill. I see you on this like rocky gravel path, and it's like you have no control anymore. You're rolling down the hill. You're still on the path. It doesn't look the way you thought it was going to be. You're getting a little bit banged up, but you're also moving more quickly, and you're not in charge anymore. And you're basically being led at a certain point. Like, you chose to go down this path, and now you are having to surrender to the path. The path has taken hold. And I don't want that to sound scary, but that's sort of what I'm getting. What is likely to change or not change if you continue? The thing is that you're going to continue. I mean, sure, you could say, I don't want to do this anymore, and you get off, but I think you're going to continue to be led back. This group is spiritually led. You are being led by something larger than yourself. Oh, some emotion is starting to rise to the surface. I think that also some of you may have started this as a way to handle things you've gone through. So maybe you went through a traumatic relationship, or a traumatic event, or a difficult childhood, or you have had you have been mentally unwell or emotionally unwell, and you started to seek healing for these things. Like you started reading books about how to regulate your emotions or something, or you started reading things on Reddit about how people use certain techniques to heal their stuff. I don't know. It could be anything for you, but it's like you started as a way to heal, and now you're going down a rabbit hole. And it's so interesting to experience because it's not at all what you thought it was going to be. It goes so much deeper than you thought it was going to be. And by the time you finish rolling down, falling into this rabbit hole, making your way out, your whole perspective has changed. The way that you see the world, relationships, yourself, everything is changing. Everything is changing, but in this really beautiful, positive way. And it brings emotion up into like my chest. And I almost feel like I could cry because this is a huge release for you. And it may feel like you're stuck and you're in the midst of it and it's hard and weird and dark and you don't understand what's happening and you feel like you've even taken steps back and you're like, I already healed this. Why am I back in the muck? It doesn't make any sense. It's going to make a lot of sense, but you're as you are journeying on this path, it's like you go through these places where sometimes the light is shining through the trees and it's beautiful and everything makes sense again. And then you walk through this dark tunnel and like there's water dripping and like weird sounds and you're scared and you can't see the end of it. And then you get out and then something else makes sense. This group is traveling a really interesting path and it's so emotional because it's like you've always been searching for something. For your whole life, I see you as a little kid, wondering what the purpose of life is, wondering why you're here. Like, it's like you're a little kid with these existential questions and these big questions, and no one can answer them for you. And you've wondered your whole life, and then you're finally getting to this point where the light is shining and you understand. So it feels emotional, I think, to you because things never made any sense. And finally, they're starting to make sense. But they don't yet. And so you've been wondering, I think that you've been wondering whether to continue down this path or not, because it hasn't seemed to bear fruit. It hasn't seemed to bring you clarity. At times you think you have clarity and then everything's more confusing and you feel like you've gone back, but you haven't. Oh, it's so interesting how emotional this is. I'm going a little bit slow here because I don't want to I hate to cry during readings because I'm like, this is about you, not me, but the emotion comes up so strong. And I think that you have had such an emotional tie to life and the things that you've gone through. And this group certainly either is emotional in general or whatever this is has been revolving around your emotions and your emotional state. And it has felt so hard at times, like this figure having to face this dragon in order to get to where you want to go. It's like you've had to face so many hard things and it just feels sort of never ending. And yet also this dragon looks kind and it's in the way and it's blocking the path. And it's almost like if you approach it in a different way, it will just move aside. There's something here about how things can be really easy and that there's a change in perspective and that, if we look at these two, there's similar and yet different energy. So we have wands here and we have this person with all these wands and this person with these, but this one is flow. This one is in flow and everybody sort of like watching in awe as this person does magic with just 3 wands. And yet this person has 10 wands and things still aren't making sense. So it's like for some reason you've been struggling to accomplish something, to get to a certain place, to get something done or to do it right or to figure something out about yourself. And it's been really hard. And yet it can be really easy. And, I intended to do these readings as relationship readings, stay or go. We ask this question and we get the answers. We ask this question and we get the answers. And it's like methodical and organized. And yet your group is not that way. And so that leads me to believe that you have tried to organize things. You've tried to do things methodically. You've tried to do things the right way. You have tried to put in the work, and it feels like sometimes you're getting nowhere and things aren't making any sense. Some of it is about a shift in perspective. And so this really isn't about staying or going. Whatever you do, you've already started to take this path. You're going to keep rolling down it. And it's not about another person. This is about you. This is about coming home to yourself. This is about understanding yourself. This is about understanding the big questions. The reason you're here, the reason anything exists, the connection that exists between all of us. You're rolling down a path where you are going to understand things that we as human beings usually don't understand because we're playing the game of life. And that doesn't mean you're going to stop playing the game of life, but your whole perspective around it is going to completely transform. And this isn't about whether or not you should do it anymore, because even if you continue the exact path you're on, you're staying in the relationship you're in, you're reading the books you're reading, you're working on the healing work you're working on, you're meditating, whatever it is for you, that is going to transform. But you don't need to abandon it. You can. Whatever you do, you're still going to be rolling down this path, and it seems like it's going to be the same speed no matter what. And I think that sometimes you try to rush it or even slow it down, but you're not in control anymore. And it's not that you can't say, I don't like what's happening. You know, if you don't like things that are happening in your life, you can change them, but you're rolling down to truth. I hope that that makes sense. And I don't think we can even really ask the next questions. The outcome if you leave, the outcome if you stay, because that's not what this is about for you. And I hate to derail the reading because this is what you're here for. But if this is your reading and you stayed till this point, then I think that hopefully you understand, because I do notice your crown chakra is lighting up, your spiritual connectedness. So what I really want to do is get more advice for you on how to navigate this. And we're going to do that. And if any other questions come to mind while I'm doing that, we will ask those. And if not, we will end it there. And I genuinely hope this is helpful for someone. It's certainly not what I expected. So for group 2, can we get some advice on how to navigate this, how to travel the path in a way that's a little bit easier and hopefully makes a little bit more sense? 8 of Pentacles, the 9 of Wands, and the 4 of Cups. Okay. Well, let's start with the 4 of Cups. The classic meaning is coming to mind a little bit, whereas that usually doesn't happen with this deck. But, in the 4 of Cups, we usually have a figure here. There are sort of 3 empty cups and then a new cup being offered. And oftentimes the figure in the 4 of Cups is like, don't even bother. Like, I'm already over it. There's a discouragement, doubt energy in the 4 of Cups where it's like, I've experienced the same thing over and over. Why is this going to be any different? And so that's with you and you feeling like you haven't either made progress recently, or you make progress and then you take a step back, or things keep not working out for you, or everything feels kind of dark and heavy and hard to figure out. There is advice here to be open to the possibility that something new will come in and change things for you. And while you may have been able to rely on certain techniques in the past, certain tools, and they maybe haven't been working for you the same way lately, and you're starting to wonder if maybe they ever did or if it was a fluke, it may just be that those are not the right tools right now for where you're at, and something else is. And I do think for some of you, that tool has already been made apparent to you. Someone has made a suggestion to do a certain thing. You've had a book sitting on your shelf that you haven't read yet because you have so many other books to read, and you'll get to it eventually, but it seems like it's going to be harder to read. Or something keeps coming up when you're online. It's like people keep having success from a certain thing, but you haven't tried it yet. So there's something that either has been sort of in your purview already or will be coming in. And that's part of, when I said you were going to be made aware of things, it's that you're also going to be made aware of a tool or a technique or something that will help you at this point in your journey. Because again, as I see you on this metaphorical path, okay, you started out with your backpack, and in your backpack, you had a map. And at first, the map was really helpful. It helped you along your path. And then suddenly you get to a point in the path that it's not even on the map anymore. You've reached like the end of the map. And so the map no longer helps. And then you're walking along and you meet someone. And that someone on the path is like, oh, don't worry. If you go this way, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And so it's like you continue to need different resources as you make your way along the path because you reach different points of the path. And so while some things will always be helpful to you, as you continue down this path, new things are going to be helpful. And so sometimes it can feel very confusing in the meantime when you don't have a map and you don't have a guide, but then you find a book that someone left. And in that book is more information on how to continue down this path. And so be open to what's next. Be open to something else that can help you, something else that will get you to where you need to go, and be willing to walk away from the things that no longer help, or to take a break from them and come back to them later. You are walking down a path that most people don't walk down. Most people don't have the courage or the bravery or the curiosity. And again, I feel the emotion come to the surface. I think that it's not that you or someone else is more special than the other. You know, we're all special, we're all unique, but you are going down sort of a rare path, one that other people have traveled, but it's not the one most people choose to travel because most people would rather sort of play a different game in the game of life. But you have something in you that makes it impossible for you to just keep playing the game in the same way that other people are. And I think in some ways you are going to be a leader in this. You're going to teach other people how to walk this path. You're going to provide tools for other people walking this path. And a lot of emotion comes to the surface when I say that. And so I think that this is where a lot of your purpose in this life ties in, because I think sometimes when we get in touch with the things that give us purpose and fulfillment in life, it can bring emotion to the surface because it's so true. And so there's this part of ourselves that feels so emotional or so grateful to be so in tune with what is real. And while, you know, you may also want to have money and good food and like nice clothes and a nice home and things like that, there's another part of you that really wants to get to the truth of things, that wants to have a clear understanding and knowing, and not just a mental or psychological understanding of like the truth of all things, but like a deep knowing experience, like an experiential knowing of what everything means and what everything is. And I think that that's absolutely happening for you in this life. I hope the people that are meant to find this reading find it, because I really don't, this is not how I'm advertising this reading. So anyway, you know, when I look at the Eight of Pentacles, it makes me think about also like having a lightness of being while you do this stuff, because sometimes it can be really kind of weird and heavy and dark to work on healing, to work through trauma, or to work through your beliefs, or to be deeply truthful and honest with yourself, to change the way that you are in the world, to be willing to face your demons and such. And we can get so kind of lost in the muck and the darkness of that we forget to laugh and have fun and play and be easy. And there is advice here that despite being on this path, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun with the people in your life, or you can't watch TV sometimes, or like have a drink, or sleep in, go outside and play, or like be silly and funny and weird, or like anything that makes you feel a little bit lighter, or laugh, or that you have maybe decided is like going to make you stray from the path. At this point, you can walk off the path, but the path is always going to call you back. You're magnetized to the path, okay? And so sometimes when the path is dark and heavy and you can't see, you are allowed to leave the path and go have fun because you're still a person living life. And so there's a lot of advice here to sleep, take care of your body, laugh, have fun, joke around with people, not always be so focused on a spiritual pursuit or so focused on finding the truth or healing, because you can do that all the time. But part of the heaviness for you is not having enough fun. And so there's a lot of advice here to not only be kind of hopeful and optimistic and open to things working out and things coming your way to help you, but to have fun and not take life so seriously. And the Eight of Pentacles is often about hard work. And yet this Eight of Pentacles isn't like that at all. And so I think it's worth kind of getting lost a little bit, because the path is always going to continue. You're always going to make it back in the right direction, but it's okay to wander off the path and get a little lost and then come back, because it's going to help you with that change in perspective to allow you to get to where you want to go in a way that's a little bit easier. And I think sometimes there can be this worry when we're trying to accomplish something, anything, where if we take a break, we're not going to get it done. It's not going to be done fast enough. And so you want to keep working, or you want to keep moving toward it, and you feel guilty if you don't. And yet what I'm getting is it's going to take the time it takes. You don't really have a lot of control over that. So you can keep working and working and working and working, or you can like play and have fun and do whatever, or you can do a balance of both, and you're going to make it at the same time. You don't have control over that. So you might as well have some fun. You might as well mix things up. And, I'm getting, for some of you, if you're working on something like a career goal where this relies on money, or you're working on something where there's something like relying on it working out, you're not going to be able to change it by working harder. So have some fun, find things that feel a little bit lighter. And also with this Four of Cups, some of your previous work may have been digging really deep into the subconscious, into the things that have harmed you, into your emotional state, and releasing it that way. And yet you're being called now toward something that is a little bit lighter, some tool or way of healing, or a person, or something that feels lighter, because I think the next leg of your journey is about tuning back into the light. And, something that I've personally been hearing a lot for myself is let the light in. And I tend to, when I hear it, I see light going in through my crown chakra. And it's like a reminder. It comes to me, it's been coming to me for the last month or two, every couple days or every couple weeks. And it's oftentimes when I'm laying in bed, but it's let the light in. And when I'm feeling heavy, it's like, oh yeah, I can be light and let the light in. And I'm sure I'm just a little bit more connected to my guides sometimes in those moments, but you're also meant to let the light in. And here's the light showing itself. Like things have been kind of dark and heavy, and there's this lightness and the playfulness and the laughter and the light making itself known. And so as light things make themselves known, things that make your energy lighter, you have advice here to let those things in, because they're going to help you. And it's not always about digging into the dirt and digging and digging and digging and digging until you find things and then releasing them. Sometimes it's more about reaching toward the light, reaching towards the things that feel like light, and letting them in and letting them wash themselves over you, and imagining that light filling your body and your brain and your nerves and your cells and your muscles and your bones, and allowing yourself to feel lighter, because that is what's going to help you next. And the Nine of Wands even makes me think of that too. It feels like you've kind of been here, kind of exploring, trying to figure things out. Nothing's making sense. And here, this is in the air, light, and able to sort of float and fly through the air. Even though it seems like it's a heavy thing, it's light enough to fly. And yeah, it has wings and everything, but it feels like it's coming to rescue you. The light and those who love you in spirit are trying to help you feel lighter and brighter, because also the truth that you're coming to is love, is light, is freedom and joy and humor and laughter and playfulness. All of those things are where you're going. So why not grab hold of the light now and experience more of it in your day-to-day life and find yourself flying? If you've been rolling down this gravelly path and you're all banged up, why not allow someone to save you and fly you to the end of the path where the light is? So I think at this point, if you embrace light and however that works for you, if you are a visual person and you can imagine the light, if you are a feelings person and you can imagine feeling it, if watching a certain comedian makes you laugh, or hanging out with a certain person makes you feel better, or sleeping more or less, or, cleaning your house, whatever fills you up with light, it's time to do more of that. And that's actually where I'm going to leave it, because I think that's the biggest message for you. So group 2, thank you so much for being here. I truly hope this made sense. I hope that everything works out for you, and I hope that you come back and that I see you again soon. Okay. Bye. Hi, group 3, you chose the Dioptase and this 2 of Swords from the Desert Illuminations Tarot. Welcome to your reading. So we are looking into whether a connection is still worth it and whether to stay or go. And we are going to start with these oracle cards to do an energy check and make sure that this is your reading. If it is not, feel free to choose again, and then we'll get into the tarot. So let's see what we have for you. We have the number 2, second chakra. The energy of the sacral chakra helps us to navigate our lives through our emotions and supports our ability to enjoy the sensual world. Then we have number 4, life is better together. Seek assistance from your community. Connect with family, friends, or others who will support you. It can be as simple as making a phone call. Number 11, the crystal grotto, energy cosmos. Apophyllite, stay positive. And finally, flute, disappointment in a friend or lover. So interestingly, the first 2 groups had very consistent sort of energy across the cards. And yet right away here, there's a lot of different things happening. So the first thing is, I think that there are a lot of different relationships in this group. It could be romantic, friendship, it could be family, it could be otherwise. But I do think that this group, the person that you are thinking about, is someone you either have known for a long time, or you know them very well, or you're pretty close. There's sort of some like best friend energy here, or like sibling, close cousin, someone you know really well, or you have known really well, but it does kind of feel like up and down energy, where sometimes you feel closer to this person, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they do things that are upsetting to you, and you wonder whether or not you want to continue to give as much to this relationship. I do kind of feel like you don't necessarily want to fully walk away, but you're wondering if you maybe need to have different boundaries or change the amount of time you're spending with this person. I do feel some like frustration energy as well as some sadness energy. So I also really think that you have a lot of yourself and your emotions invested in this person, and it's very hurtful when they do things that don't feel good. I mean, disappointment in a friend or lover is here as well. So there's definitely been times where you've been feeling very disappointed by this person's actions. And I think you've been trying to stay positive, and yet it really hurts. And I think, with this life is better together, you just really love this person, or they feel like community to you. And so you really want to get along and have flow. And yet it's not that simple, And I think that you often don't feel as supported by this person as you would like to feel, and that you maybe give more of yourself and more support to this person, and you feel like you love them more than they love you. And yeah, I mean, with the 2 here, and then we have the 11, both of these numbers. So 11 reduces down to 2 in numerology, but even as an 11 and as the 2, it can be a partnership number, and that's not always about romantic partnership. So again, romantic partnership, best friend, close sibling, twin even. So it's, I think, especially hurtful for you when this person doesn't match your energy. And so, it can be kind of destabilizing, and you really want it to be, with this 4 here, a number of stability and this family and community feeling. You really want flow and stability and equality, and for this person to be open to you and to love you as much as you love them. And I think that sometimes it feels like this person is closed off to you. I think for some of you, you've been sort of moving forward and healing and kind of unearthing subconscious stuff and clearing it out of the way in order to be a happier person in life. And yet this person is maybe not doing those same things or doing the work. And so it feels like you're on 2 different levels or 2 different playing fields now. And that can also feel painful, because as you might be learning things about yourself and being kinder and more generous and more wonderful, and this person is not, it can feel really upsetting. But I do think for some of you, you give a lot to this person and you don't receive in kind, and it's very painful for you. For some of you, this could even be a whole community versus a person, but I'm going to talk about a person. So keep that in mind. And it does feel like there's good. It's not all bad. There are disappointing moments. There are moments where this person doesn't match your energy, but then there are other times where they do match your energy and you're laughing really hard together, or you have a really fun conversation or a really fun day, or you're talking about something you're both interested in. Sometimes you have these magical moments. And so it hits even harder and feels even sadder when that's sometimes rare. It could be, if this is someone you talk to every single day and you have this really fun and wonderful conversation, you feel connected again like you used to, and then that doesn't happen again for another 3 weeks, but then it happens again and you're like, oh yeah, everything's fine. And even when you maybe know that it's not personal and what this person is doing is not about you, it still feels very painful because you feel so connected to this person. I'm getting a lot of twin-like energy, and that doesn't mean that you are related or you are twins, but I hope you understand what I'm talking about there. I do think there's hot and cold energy. We have the hot colors here. We have the cold, it's back and forth, hot and cold. Sometimes this person is kind of mean or judgmental or not very present or available. And sometimes they're really funny and sweet and nice. And so I think there's just a lot of confusion for you here. And sometimes it's so good. It feels like fate and it feels like kismet. And then sometimes it's something completely different. So if you relate to that, this is likely to be your reading. So let's shuffle these tarot cards and I'll let you know what else we're going to look at for this relationship that you have. So we're going to look at what is likely to change in this relationship if you continue. We'll look at what is unlikely to change at this point. And I like to say, anything can change. Okay. We're just looking at the current energies and how they're looking. But things can always change. If you are making different choices and that kind of stuff, it can change the energies. Okay. So keep that in mind. But we're looking at what is likely and unlikely to change if you continue. We'll look at the outcome, short and long term, for you if you choose to leave this relationship at this time. We will look at the outcome, short and long term, if you choose to stay in this relationship at this time. These are a little hard to shuffle, as you can see. And then finally, we will look at any additional advice for you about this. So if you're struggling to figure this out, hopefully we can get some information that helps you. Okay. So for group 3, what is likely to change for group 3 in this relationship if they continue? The King of Wands. The Queen of Wands. What is unlikely to change? The 10 of Wands and the 10 of Pentacles. Interesting how we have the King and Queen of Wands over here, and then we have 2 10s over here, the 10 of Wands and the 10 of Pentacles. Okay, You know, I feel like you've been struggling for a long time here with this relationship. And, it's not, some of that's not going to change, but it's interesting because some things seem to get better. Some things don't seem to get better. And that's, I think, what you've been dealing with. And so, I'm not going to answer the question right now, should you stay or should you go? I think that things maybe need to change within you in the way that you are in relationship to this person. But if we look at what is likely to change if you continue, look, you're on the same page while being two different people. So some of you it may not be conscious. I don't know. You'll know better than I do, but you may be feeling like you want this person to be exactly like they used to be, or exactly like you, or you're like so on the same page that you basically are like twins or like the same person. That's not going to be for everybody. But if that is the case, really one thing that will change is that you will be able to enjoy being on the same page without being exactly the same. And, agreeing about certain things, but disagreeing about others, and knowing that this person is always going to be, while similar to you in certain ways, very different from you in others, And this doesn't mean that one of you is one gender and one of you is another. You could be the same, but there are some key differences between you. And I do think probably one of you has stronger masculine energy and one of you has stronger feminine energy, regardless of your gender. I think that too, as you are more and more authentically yourself and more aware of what's important to you, your passions and your boundaries and all those things, and you are working towards the things that are important to you rather than worrying as much about this relationship, you'll find that this person kind of respects those things about you, and then your relationship sort of improves. So the change here is like being on the same page in a way that feels healthier and more right to both of you, and it does seem like as you continue in this relationship, both of you are sort of learning to respect one another more. So there's a greater level of respect for your boundaries, your interests, your passions, who you are as a person, and your authenticity. Some of you, I definitely think, have like lessened yourself for this person. So like, let's say it's a friend and you're both women, and you noticed whenever you would hang out with your friend, she sort of like, she didn't like that you had like a really cute outfit and you did your makeup, and she was like, oh, I didn't know we were supposed to like be that cute today. And so then you started like not dressing cute anymore because you didn't want to make her uncomfortable, or you dress in a really interesting way and this other person makes fun of your clothes or like makes you feel embarrassed for wearing what you wear. And so you kind of just stopped dressing in the interesting ways you wanted to dress because you didn't want to be made fun of anymore. And so it feels like something like that has happened for a lot of you, where you had to sort of lessen yourself and fit in with this person or with a group of people in order to be approved of. And so that is changing. If you continue in this relationship, for some of you, there's definitely advice to change that. But then I think some of you, look how similarly they are dressed. So I'm getting two different things where some of you are going to be more and more authentically yourself, which allows the other person to be. And some of you are going to just try to more and more dial it in to be closer to what is approvable by this other person. And certainly there is advice to go your own way, and that will positively influence the other person. But there does seem to be a lot of sort of peer pressure vibes or like wanting to fit in here that have affected you not so positively in this relationship. And if we look at what is unlikely to change if you continue this relationship, we have two tens. And again, we have good and bad, or like more positive and more negative. So some things are always going to be good in this relationship. The ways in which you connect, or you make each other laugh, or you have a similar interest, or you understand each other in some way, That stuff stays. And then in the ways where this relationship feels hard, burdensome, heavy, stressful, that also doesn't look like it's changing. So, why this relationship has been so difficult to figure out for you, because it has had difficulties and because it's had such strong positives and wonderful things, that stuff is continuing. That's why it's like, I think a lot of you have known this person a long time. And even if you haven't known this person a long time and you're just close, these things just continue and continue and continue. If they've been going on for 20 years, they're not necessarily changing really quick. There's a lot of energy here about the good and the bad staying the same, and I'm excited to get to the advice portion of this reading for you, because next we are going to look at like outcomes if you leave or stay. But I don't think it really even comes down to leaving or staying for a lot of you. Yes, for some of you, it will be more positive to leave or more positive to stay and change things. But I think it comes down to more about you. And while you love this person and this person is very special to you, there are things within you that are impacting the situation and impacting how hard it is for you, even if this person is doing things to hurt you, to make fun of you, to bring you down. It's not about them. First of all, what they're doing is not personal. It's their own stuff. But secondly, while there is a connection here and a relationship between you, and there are energies that involve both of you, there are things involving just you, I think, that would help you in relationship to this person and to other people. And I think sometimes, in this relationship, it's so much fun. You feel so connected. You feel like this is a special connection that you just don't have with everybody else because of your history or the ways that you are, or the ways that you have chemistry with one another. And it's like there is magic here. There's magic in this relationship. And yet there is also so much stress and exhaustion and feeling like you're alone in picking up the pieces and alone in figuring things out and doing things. Like sometimes the camaraderie is so rich and beautiful and wonderful, and then this person just like ceases to exist for a while, or they are like suddenly very mean or unpleasant, and then you're on your own again, kind of like dealing with life on your own. And there's a huge amount of unfairness and unjustness here. Injustice is the word, I guess, but it is making some emotion come to the surface for me. And so I think that you have had a lot of sadness and emotion around this relationship. And I want to now move on to the outcome questions, and then we can get into advice. So let's look at the outcome if you choose to leave this relationship at this time, how that will feel short and long term. The High Priestess, how would it feel in the long term? The Five of Swords. What is the outcome if you stay in this relationship in the short term? The Five of Cups. And in the long term, the Moon. Okay. All right. So if you leave this relationship, if you do choose to walk away, so in the short term, we have the High Priestess, and usually she does look, I would say, more at peace, and it is a very intuitive card, but this High Priestess looks troubled, and it looks like she's uncomfortable. Her posture, she's kind of like hunched over a little bit. These wings don't feel like they're taking her anywhere. They're like for show. What this makes me feel like is that in the short term, if you walked away, you would feel like you were trusting your gut and doing something that was right for you because this has been so hard, and yet you're questioning it because it doesn't really feel right. Like you thought you would feel free. You have wings, and you're not using them to fly. They're just decorative. They're just for show. And so it feels like in the short term, it's like you're trying to convince yourself you did the right thing, but it does not feel right. It just doesn't. And we have this 2 here for the High Priestess card, but the 2 is off center because we have something else in the center here. And so it feels like you're still dwelling quite a bit on this person and your relationship to them, and like how unbalanced it felt, but also it's really off balance now that you've walked away. Like something still isn't right here. It makes me think that in the short term, you really question having walked away, and it does not feel right, but you try to convince yourself that it does. There's a lot of pain that I'm feeling there. And also with her hands kind of around her lower belly here, it feels like there's anxiety here and uncertainty and feeling like you did the wrong thing, and that like you're trying to stand in your power, but actually you're not, because the High Priestess also is about, like the unknown, having information that isn't known to everyone. And yet it doesn't feel like you do have access to that. You hoped to have access to that. You hoped to get clarity by making this decision. And yet in the short term, you don't have clarity. In the long term, if you left this person, if you ended this relationship, in the long term, there is a stronger feeling of like power and comfort in your decision, and feeling like, there's a little bit more control here. Like, because I think with this person you have in your life, there's often a lack of control. Like the other person's kind of in control because they kind of do what they want. And it seems like you try to be sort of like forgiving and pleasant and fun, and they just do whatever they want. And so if you walk away, yes, you take your power back in some way, and it eventually feels a little bit better. But there's still a sadness here. And the 5 of Swords is not always the happiest card. It's like, okay, you won, you are in control, but like, are you happy? It feels like there's a longing, if we look at these swords and the little hearts on them, it makes me think there's a longing for love and connection and what was. And yet you're just, you're like, I'm standing in my power. I'm doing what's right. I am taking control of things. And yet there's a sadness here and a longing and a feeling like you have to keep convincing yourself that what you did was right. And I'm not saying not to leave if that's right for you, but this is how the energies are coming through right now. And there's still pain here. And also she's got like an eye patch. So it's like she still doesn't see clearly. And it's not that you can't see clearly with one eye, but like that's the energy that's coming through here. And that this would have a big change on your day-to-day life, and you might feel more independent. You might feel more sure of the decision you made, but there's still a lack of clarity. And so I don't know that I would necessarily say that like leaving is going to bring you all that you're looking for right now, because the message that's sort of coming through is that what you are looking for isn't necessarily going to be found in this relationship, that there are pros and cons. I mean, if someone is being, abusive or something like that, yes, you need to walk away. Okay. But if there are hot and cold energies and all of these things, and it is very painful because you love this person so much, like, yes, I get it. But there's something here for you where it's not about the relationship. There's something more here for you. And that I think changes within yourself are likely to change your relationships, including this one. And I don't think that it is coming down to staying or leaving more so than it is about investigating stuff within yourself, which is, so much fun to do. But, oftentimes I've had a lot of readings since I started doing these videos on YouTube where there are some toxic people, okay? And there are people you certainly need to walk away from. But for some reason here for you, there's more information here about you and the changes that you make within yourself. But let's look at the outcome that if you stay in this relationship, short and long term, I wouldn't say these are entirely like happy, joyful, positive cards either, because there are energies in this relationship that you have to this person that are hard and are a struggle and have continued to be for a long time, it seems like. And so it does kind of feel like, that's going to continue. You don't necessarily need to be as close to this person right now. You probably need to have like different boundaries and expectations and things like that. I don't know. We'll get into advice. But anyway, if we look at the short term if you stay in this relationship with this person. In the short term, we have the 5 of Cups, not the happiest card, right? And it's a card that's often about feeling grief or loss or sadness. And so I think, this just speaks to, in this relationship with this person, there is sadness. There are emotions. You are impacted emotionally, mentally. You are often sad, or you feel like you're not being seen or appreciated, and you keep trying to put a positive spin on things. And yet there are real things that are hurting you by being in relation to this person and loving them and trusting them and all of those things. So in the short term, if you stay, there is sadness, there is emotional turmoil, there are things that don't feel good, and you are caught between the pain of the things that happen with this person and your expectations being destroyed, and then having hope and optimism and having lovely times with them. And if we look at the outcome, if you stay in relationship with this person in the long term, the moon can be about the unknown. So on one hand, it can say, we don't know what's going to happen in the long term of this relationship, partly because I think you're going to be making some changes. And so it can go one of 2 ways or one of multiple ways. But also the moon is about your intuition. And so there's some advice even here to get more in tune with your intuition. But what I really, really noticed again is this sort of like twin-like vibe where we have these mirrored images on both sides. Like these dogs or these wolves are the same. We have this building or whatever it is on either side. And yet everything else in the card is, we just have one lobster. We have one moon, lots of stars, but it doesn't matter. But like you're on either side of this path. So it's pointing to, again, that you have this connection and this strong love for this person and this sort of like twin-like energy in some aspect of this relationship, and that will always be there and that always continues. And yet you're on either side of this path. And so, it sort of feels like you've crossed the path and you're on this sort of like other journey where you're trying to get this person to also step over here, but they're not. And so long term, you may always have these differences. As you change, as they change, you will have this similar vein between you, but you sort of will continue to branch off in these ways. Or like, even if you become happy, they may not become happy. Or if you make more money, they may not make more money. There may be always these things that kind of cause conflict and strife and some pain. I certainly feel the emotional pain here. But also there's, a mirroring here. So you might take some time, long term, you may notice where they are mirroring things for you. If they are a complete asshole to you and you're really nice, I'm not saying you look at them and you're like, you're being an asshole. How am I being an asshole? I mean, that might be what you do, but somehow there is mirroring happening for you too. And in the long term, you may understand more of how that works and how to adjust things for yourself. And also the more you work on yourself, the more that it will impact this other person and vice versa. But the more you feed into the negativity, the same thing can happen. There are 2 5s here. So, while there's a lot of energy of things staying the same, and then again, mirrored images, mirrors of each other, 5 is also a number of change. So there's change happening and change possible. This is a really interesting energy between you that is, I can understand why it's so difficult and so hard, because it does feel like a special connection. And so it's incredibly painful when things are not in alignment for you in this connection. And so, I can't really answer for you whether this is worth it or not. But what I do want to do is get some advice for you that will hopefully ease this situation for you and help you to move forward in a way where it's not as painful and where hopefully you can just find a little bit more harmony and ease. So let's get some advice for group 3. Okay, the Lovers, the 6 of Cups, the Knight of Swords, and the Nine of Cups. Okay. So let's see. As far as advice goes for this relationship, so the first thing that I'm getting is that you can still maintain a connection to this person. I think that in this particular case, this person is important to you and is not someone that you need to leave behind unless, like I said, there is abusive things happening. Okay. If that's your situation, I will always tell you to leave. Okay. If, with some people, sometimes they can do something that is unkind and those kinds of things. And usually I will always recommend you leave. But for some reason, for a lot of you, for this relationship, it is important. And there is a possibility for change. But like I did think, and what's showing up in these cards here is to choose yourself. You don't have to abandon this person or this relationship, but you also don't have to accept what they've been giving you. Okay. So moving forward toward the things that are important to you, prioritizing yourself, prioritizing the things that make you make you feel like you, even if this person has made fun of things in the past, it's time to ignore them and to do those things, wear those things, whatever it is, and to express yourself as you are, because that is going to lead you to this Nine of Cups where you are happy and you are fulfilled and you feel emotionally well and you have your cups are filled so that when you share, you are not sharing from an empty cup. And so pursuing the things and the relationships and the people and the goals and the ways of being that are true to you without regard to how this person feels about it. And, you know, with this Six of Cups, normally they're kids, and like we have the slightly older kid handing flowers to this younger kid, and it's very happy and it can be a nostalgic card. But when we look at this Six of Cups, we have these 4 big jugs with cactuses in the front here, and then we have this big one here, but the one that's being offered is so small, and like we see her here on the right and she's not taking it. She's not even looking at it. And so your advice is to change the dynamic by changing yourself and pursuing what you want. And if this person doesn't have enough to give you, you don't have to take it. And instead, you should move toward the things that have more to offer you. So spend more time on relationships with people who have more to offer you, even if they don't feel as special or as connected. This person is still here. They're still here. They're still in your vicinity. And yet you're spending time doing what you want to do and spending time on, if we look at the cups as relationships, spending time on relationships that fill your cup, that give back to you, that lift you up, that love the way that you are. Then I think it is going to become more clear whether or not this person has a place in your life. I think for some of you, yes, this person will always have a place in your life, but it is going to look a little bit different if you choose yourself. For some of you, you may find that this person doesn't suit you anymore and that you will move toward relationships and connections that are for a healthy long term. And so I do think no matter who this person is to you, and whether or not you keep them in your life, you're very, very, very encouraged to call in other relationships, to spend time on people who you can feel could be for the long term, even if it doesn't feel as magic and special right off the bat. There is something that you're building with people that will bring like long-term peace and happiness to you, and people you feel safe committing to once you understand and know them better, because you will be on a same page where you're sort of allowed to be yourself. You're allowed to be two different people who live in harmony. And we have the 2 sixes here, and the number 6 can be a number of harmony and balance, and finding that within yourself and also in relationship to other people. You know, this Knight of Swords really makes me think that you've got to be unafraid to move toward what is important to you without this person if needed. And it's not that you can't spend any more time on them, but if they are taking up a lot of your energy, your time, your thoughts, you're being advised to release that. It's not necessarily that you need to release them from your life, but don't let so much of your life and your choices and your feelings be dependent on them and the things that they do, because the things that they do are their own problem. And I think for a long time, you both have sort of been in this dynamic where you're very affected by what they do. And so, conscious or not, they seem to know that they have an effect on you and that they have control over you. And it's time to take control over your own life. And wherever you feel that they are trying to control you or anything they do is having control over you, it's time to take the reins again and take control again, and like making it quick. So it's like every time you notice like they make fun of you, okay, how are you going to flip that around? Or they want you to like abandon your plans with other people for them. Like, how can you make sure you don't do that? There's things that you are being advised to put into practice with how you relate to this person and how you respond to this person. And the more you practice and just do things as quickly as you can, you're going to find more like peace and fulfillment and have more clarity on who and what is right for you for the long term. And again, it doesn't mean that this person has to go, but I think that their role in your life is going to become smaller and have less of a strong effect on you unless they can also change in a positive way. And I think for some of you, that certainly will happen with all the mirroring energy that we've had. And I think the stronger that you get and the stronger within yourself and the stronger you respond to this person, and not that you need to be mean, but that you need to be very in tune with what is important to you and what you need, this will change things. I think some of you are very afraid of this person leaving you behind. And I don't see that happening actually. So if that's been a fear for you, I see this person staying in your vicinity and always wanting to. And it's more that you struggle, because I think this person has personal struggles. They may even like to blame them on you, but I'm not seeing that you are contributing to them other than maybe being people pleasing or fawning or kind of allowing bad behavior to exist. And so in that way, it's certainly not helping the situation. But I see that this person loves you a lot, but I don't think that they have the same capacity for love that you do. Sort of like your heart is more open and theirs is more shielded, a little bit more closed in a way where like they've got all this stuff wrapped around their heart that if they could remove, they would be a lot more open. And that's possible that that could happen, but that's not really what we're looking at. So I think that you don't need to be afraid that this person's going to leave you behind. I think this person really loves you in the way that they do, and that a lot of the things that they've done that have been hurtful towards you truly have nothing to do with you. Even when it's been a very specifically personal attack, it still has everything to do with them. That's what I'm seeing. And, so really, you don't need to be scared that they're going to leave you behind or that they're going to hate you. They may be reactive if you start changing the ways you are, but I think that they're also going to feel sorry for the ways they've hurt you over time. But really, the strongest piece of advice here is that you are meant to sort of like go your own way, find your own strength, and be an open, loving person, but allow other people in. And then you will find that you have special connections that grow with other people. And while this one may be very rare and very special, you may find that you have really special connections with other people that the longer you invest in them, the more special and wonderful it becomes. So I think that's all I have for you today, Group 3. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit the like button if you did enjoy this video, if you want to, or leave a comment for me if you'd like. And I hope you have a great week. I hope to see you soon. Bye. Hi, Group 4. You chose the clear quartz and this Two of Swords from the Skeleton Tarot. Welcome to your reading. We're looking into whether a connection is still worth it and whether to stay or go. I am going to start with the oracle cards for an energy check to make sure that you are in the right group. If you're not, feel free to choose again. Sometimes we choose the wrong group first. So I'm going to set these tarot cards aside and let's take a look at the energies. Okay, so Group 4, you have number 14, connection. The frequency of connection supports our ability to find alignment and resonance with others, things, and ideas. We have the number 3, in the light of the moon. A full moon can shine light on what you have been resisting. This can be anything from your fears to your soul's beauty. The number 7, abandoned plantation, dismantling, ugly truths. We have turquoise, prioritize your health. And then we have spear, heartache over what you no longer have. Okay, so group 4. Okay, well, some of you have already dealt with an ending in this connection. Something has already changed dramatically in this relationship, or something has already ended, but you are either having trouble letting go, or you're not sure if you should let go, or if there's anything to salvage here, because this connection may have felt very important. I think some of you are wondering if something new can emerge from this after this change or this ending. And, or if something hasn't ended, you've been really, really focused on, I think this is going to end. I think we're reaching an end, or something about it has been feeling like an ending, feeling like a big change, but you're just, you're not sure. So, if you're not relating to that, I do think another group is probably for you, or you're just not in this reading, but there's ending energy here. And like, this isn't like, what this is that you've already experienced an ending in this relationship. You've experienced a big change. Something's been changing very dramatically, or you're sort of wondering if you can shift things to become new again in this relationship. But there's a whole lot of ending relationship here, and there's certainly some pain. I mean, not only does it say heartache, but I'm having some emotional pain come forward, some sadness and some disappointment and heartbreak, that's really coming forward. And it feels like, with this abandoned plantation, what was so beautiful and promising in the beginning has become sort of ugly in some way, has been sort of destroyed. And I think that you've been really hurt by this person and this relationship, and it certainly has impacted your health quite a bit. I think a lot of you are experiencing health issues because of the stress that you've dealt with in this relationship, or you're feeling sort of unwell because of this. And, with the connection card, I think it has felt like it was a really important connection, and you've been resisting the changes or the ending, or what you see. Like, there may be ugly truths here that you've been resisting seeing, and yet it's becoming so hard to turn away from it. And I think that for a lot of you here, there's been a lot of anxiety, and you may be carrying it in your body. Like, you might be having digestive issues, or your sort of like chest hurts or feels heavy. I'm getting a lot of physical stuff for this group where you feel tense, you feel heavy, you feel sad. Some of you feel very angry as well. And if the relationship itself hasn't ended, like I said, there have been changes that haven't felt good. Like, it could even be that it's like you're sort of seeing the true colors of this person, or something. Like, you thought they were one thing and you're starting to realize it's something else. Like, it could be that, there could be love bombing energy here, where at first this person made a lot of promises, or they were really sweet to you, or they gave you a lot of gifts, or they paid a lot of attention to you, and they told you all the wonderful things about you. And then it's like, that sort of ended, and now they're just kind of complaining all the time, and they're very negative, and they're depressing to be around. Like, it could be something like that. Or it could be certainly more severe, where they made all these wonderful promises and made you think it was going to be this like dream home, and then turns out like they're kind of a terrible person. It could be something like that, but certainly it's affecting your mental and emotional and physical health for most of you, and you're not sure if this is the end or not. So I'd like to get into the tarot and get some more information for you. So let's get these cards shuffled, and I'll tell you what we're looking at. So group 4, what is likely to change if you continue down this path with this person? You keep doing what you guys have been doing. what is unlikely to change if you continue. We will look at the outcome if you fully leave and how that will feel in the short and the long term, and how it will feel in the short and long term if you choose to stay, and then some additional advice for you so that you can hopefully get a little bit of clarity. So for group 4, what is likely to change if they continue in this pattern with this person? You know, as I'm shuffling, I'm just feeling a lot of like emotional pain that's coming through for you. So, I mean, we'll see what the cards say, of course, but I just feel like more pain is on the way if you stay, and I don't want to be dramatic, but let's just continue. Let's see what the cards say. The World. The King of Wands. What is unlikely to change if you continue this relationship? The Nine of Wands. And the Two of Swords. Okay. I'm going to start actually on the right here with what is unlikely to change if you continue this relationship or this pattern or whatever is going on with this person. So the first thing is, you've had confusion. You're going to continue to have confusion as long as you stay in relation to this person, is what it looks like right now. Of course, I want to say things can always change based on your choices and your actions, but what is unlikely to change is that you are going to continue to feel confused, kind of torn between stay or go, good and bad. You know, is this person worth my time or not? And, you know, because the Two of Swords, not only can it be indecision, but really what's coming through is confusion and uncertainty. And like, we have this moon here, and it's like, I feel like if the moon was full, we'd be able to see more clearly, but we can't. There's just not enough light to see clearly. And then you have this blindfold on. And I think too, in relationship to this person, you've been trying to protect yourself and protect what's important to you. And yet, I know this is the skeleton tarot, but you're so exposed. You're just like, you're just bones. Like, it's like, I think that you feel very exposed, which leads me over here to the Nine of Wands too. And like, you know, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but when I'm looking at it, it looks like this person has like mental confusion and uncertainty and like, and pain, because it looks like, yes, it's bones, but it looks like this person has like an injury in their head and they're poking it. And so it's like, you know, on the one hand, it's very painful and uncomfortable and mentally confusing. And look at all of these clouds. It's like you can't quite see clearly. It's almost clarity, but it's never quite clarity. And also there's a defensiveness and a protection coming through with these, you know, crossed arms with the swords in the Two of Knives. And then the Nine of Wands is often a very defensive card, and someone who does have a head injury oftentimes. And but it's also the fact that you seem to be poking it and prodding at it. It's like, not only are you trying to constantly figure things out in relationship with this person, but you feel like you're harming yourself by staying in relationship to them. But it also feels like everything they do is just making the wound worse. Like, the wound is never allowed to heal, because whatever is happening in relationship with this person is creating a pain and confusion, and the pain is only ever getting worse. It's never quite healing. Like, you might be able to put a bandage on it and it starts to sort of like scab over, and then this person like peels the scab off again. And like, I know that's kind of gross, but like, it's like this person picks at you, whatever it is they're doing, whether it is conscious or not, or they're intending to hurt you or not, it is hurting you. So what I don't like about this is what is likely to stay the same in relationship to this person is being confused, feeling unwell, not sure what to do, feeling like you're trying to protect yourself and yet you're still getting hurt, and that the hurt is never actually being fixed. So that also leads me to believe that whatever this person is doing that is hurtful toward you, they either don't care because they don't care about other people, or because they have their own wounds to deal with. And so because they're hurt, they hurt people and they can't focus on helping other people because they're dealing with their own pain, or because they're emotionally immature, or because of a variety of reasons. But I just don't like that you're dealing with this level of pain and it doesn't seem to be getting better. So let's look at what would likely change if you continue this relationship. And actually, there are some positives here. So, it's actually somewhat similar energy to some of the other groups that we've had. So it's like you change by, we've had this interesting wands energy come through some of the groups that I'm realizing now has been sort of a consistent thing, where you're sort of, it seems like maybe there's this collective energy, or the people that are here, this collective is sort of getting their power back and becoming more in tune with what is authentic to them, what feels right for them, what feels true for them, and for you. So basically, there's a getting in touch with your power, which likely would change this circumstance and help you to remove yourself from whatever is not healthy for you. But the King of Wands is unafraid to completely be himself, to lead other people in that, to speak his truth and his clarity and what is important to him. And I see you're alone in all of these. I mean, we have a little lizard here, but you're not in connection with this person in a meaningful way. So if you stay in this, for better or for worse, whether things are going well or not going well, you're kind of alone dealing with your own stuff. You don't have like for some of you it's romantic, some of it's not, but you don't have like an equal partnership, or you don't have like an equal relationship, and you are kind of confused. But you will change. So whether you stay or whether you go, I think you are rising up to meet yourself and to find a conclusion, because the World is the last major arcana card. And so it is a conclusion to a cycle, but it is a very positive conclusion. It's a happy, fulfilling, satisfying conclusion where things are working out for you. And here you are becoming the King of Wands, a leader in your own life and possibly for other people. And one where, I keep being drawn to the shadows in this card for some reason. The shadow, interesting, this skeleton is casting quite a shadow. And then we have the shadowy area here. But what it is making me think is this person is casting a shadow on you. And it's sort of, it's like a muck, like a sticky, what's the word for it's like quicksand, except it feels like mud. It's like you're sinking in and in and in. And so what's likely to change is that you notice it more. You become, while you kind of always have a level of confusion, you sort of become aware of where this person is dragging you down, and eventually you will want to release yourself from it. But I think you sort of see where there is light and dark, where you exist and where this person exists. But I think if you remain in relation to them, it's always going to kind of pull you down because it feels like it's sticky. And interestingly, this figure in this World card is looking down. And so it makes me think again and it's almost like, the way that this has been illustrated, the blue initial illustration lines in the background are making me think of puppet strings. And so you're sort of a puppet in a way. So, okay. So I know that I said you'd be gaining power, and I do still think that's true, but I think that something that changes is that you start to see where you are being controlled by the puppet master. So where this person is sort of heavy and dark and keeping you stuck, and where they're trying to control you for their own purposes and their own fulfillment. And so while if you stay in this relationship with this person, there continues to be confusion and pain, and you are unable to fully like defend yourself, but you become more and more aware of the dynamics at play. So let's look at the outcome if you leave and if you stay, and how that feels in the short and the long term. The 8 of Wands. How does leaving feel in the long term? The Hermit. I'm going to get one more. The 7 of Cups. Okay, and then how does staying feel in the short term if you stay? The Star. And how does staying feel in the long term? Death. Okay. You know, again, I want to focus on the right. So I want to focus on first the outcome for you and how it would feel if you stayed with this person or stayed in relationship to this person. In the short term, we have the Star, which is a really positive card for the most part. So, but there's a few things coming up for me as I look at the Star. So in the short term, if you stay in relationship to this person, there is hope here. So there is hope that things would get better, that it's not as bad as you think it is, that things could transform and work out and heal, because the Star is often really about healing. But there's also this feeling of being really alone, and being alone on sort of like an abandoned planet. And like, you know, this just looks like you've landed on the moon. And I know the moon's not a star, but like, you're just kind of alone. And so in the short term, while you're very tied to the hope of things, it feels very lonely. And it feels like you're sort of questioning whether or not there's anything here. And it's like, you know, this figure, this little skeleton here feels like so they're holding up the peace sign. So it's like you want to make peace and you want things to be okay, but there's no one else here. You're talking to someone who isn't there. You know what I mean? It's like they've just ceased to exist. And so, you know, this leads me to thinking again that if you haven't experienced an ending or a big change with this person, that if you try to stay and try to make it something new, this person's not even physically there. Like, they might be physically there and they're not mentally there. Somehow this person has already seemed to abandon you. And it leads me back to that original abandoned plantation card that we had in the beginning. They've abandoned you in some way. They've abandoned this relationship between you in some way. They've abandoned giving to you. This person, I don't think, is willing to give to you anymore in any real way. And if they ever did, it's like that's over. But I think that the ways in which they quote unquote gave to you before were not that real. And this just feels so lonely and so isolating and so sad. And it feels like, oh yeah, it's making me feel like I want to cry. This person is not investing in you in some way anymore, and they may be pretending to, is what it feels like. Like, they may be saying all the right things, and yet it feels like an end and it feels like a change because they're not there anymore. They're like, it's like they're keeping you as a backup is what it sort of feels like. And it does not feel very good to me. And, you know, in the long term, if you choose to stay and you know, let your hope win and your optimism for this relationship because you care about this person or this connection, or you're not ready to let it go. In the long term, we have the Death card. And while the Death card can be a positive thing, it feels very painful here. And like, you know, you're broken up in all of these different pieces, you know, it feels discombobulating. It feels even more confusing than anything we've seen so far. It feels like you're not being appreciated or seen, and that your pieces and parts, like what I'm sort of getting is like, this person has like a dumping ground, like a junkyard, where they just throw their old relationships once they've decided to discard them. I don't know if this is conscious for them or not. I'm not saying that this person is a bad person, but I'm certainly saying that they've treated you pretty terribly. And it's like they just dump people. And I think that this person potentially could be quite skilled at making you think that you're still important, but like you feel and you know that they are not treating you that way. Just because they say the right things, suddenly their treatment of you has changed. It's like that kind of thing where they are not appreciating you as a whole being. They're seeing you as pieces and parts because they don't see people clearly. They don't appreciate people clearly. And they have something wrong with them, in my opinion, that makes them unsuitable for close relationships until they can resolve their own shit. It just makes me feel really sad for you, and I feel a lot of your own pain coming forward. But it's interesting also because it's like in the long term, if you choose to stay for this, you can feel that you're like pieces and parts, but it's almost like you still want to feel useful and you still try to give to this person, and you're like, sure. Oh, you need a rib cage? Take it. And it's like, no, honey, please don't give away your rib cage. Like, I just want to take care of you. And I feel like there's just a lot of pain if you stay trying to make this work, because I don't know what the future holds with this person. I don't know if they're capable of healing and capable of seeing the truth and the worthiness in other people, but I think that they're very skilled at destroying relationships, and they're probably blaming you for it and blaming other people for it. But should you stay or should you go? Like, I think you should go. I think we'll look at these cards, but the pain is too great, in my opinion, and you don't deserve the treatment you're receiving. So I want to look at if you leave. If you leave in the short term, we have the Eight of Wands, which is almost always a very abundantly positive card, and it's very quick and positive energy. But something that is coming through here is like all of these wands or these canes are very different. And so I think that in the short term, it's going to be very positive in certain ways, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to come forward. So realizations of things that you've been through, realizations of the truth of things, lots of different feelings, feeling very free, feeling very powerful, very like in creative, healthier, but then also having moments that are much harder to deal with. But in the short term, I think that there's sort of a freedom, and also like you sort of getting, because the wands can be about communication. So if you choose to walk away, there may be like a flurry of communication at first. So you might have a conversation, for example, and you say all these things you wanted to say and you get it all out. But it can also be about this person not wanting to lose you and lose your parts, basically. And so they could like put in all this positive communication to try to get you to stay. They may or may not. This person may also, because they've essentially walked away from you already, they may be very like, okay, no worries, like love you. And just, it can kind of feel like BS a little bit, but there could be something there with the communication that affects you in the short term. But then if we look at how this will feel in the long term if you walk away, so we do have the Hermit. So, first of all, I think that you're going to find yourself in communion with yourself, sort of coming home to yourself, becoming very clear about this relationship and the things that happened and the ways that it affected you. And I think that in a lot of ways, this relationship has taken you away from yourself and I keep wanting to say like communion with yourself. And so, and I feel like kind of gross energy as this comes forward. Like this person has really, I'm just seeing them as like an icky little slimy, like worm-like creature and you're like this beautiful glowing person that's filled with light, and it's like for some reason you allowed yourself to see them as also like just as good as you, or you don't see your brilliance, and so you thought you were on the same page, and they were like, ooh, light, like I want it. It's like this icky like feeling where they like slime over to you and like slime over your body and like steal your light, and it's like you still always had your light. If you walk away from this person, that becomes clear to you again. You may not feel as connected to it as you once were, but you are going to be connected to it. And once you are more in connection with yourself and your light and the wonderful aspects of all that you are, you will move into this energy of the Seven of Cups, where you will start to see all the choices you have before you, all the wonderful people that are available to you, all of the opportunities, all of the wonderful things that make up who you are as a wonderful, amazing, multidimensional being. And I think that you will start to see growth in a lot of areas of your life, because this person, I think, has started to limit you and limit. I think in some ways, this person has made you believe that you are less than you are. They have affected your self-worth. They have, and whether they meant to or not, some people don't do these things consciously, and yet it's still extremely harmful. I think that this person has made you believe things about yourself that aren't true, or they've made you feel a lot more limited and unable to accomplish like all your dreams and have all the things that you want in your life. And yet once you free yourself from them, it all becomes abundantly clear once more. It's like the light is shining again. There's so much darkness over here when you are in relation to this person and trying to love them and get them to love you back. And yet when you are able to free yourself from it, and you go through, some of you may go through a quote unquote dark night of the soul, a little sadness, depression, processing of the emotions, and yet this is very good for you because you come out the other side much brighter and seeing all the opportunity and all the wonderful things that you have in front of you. So I just want to get a little bit of advice for you about dealing with this. We have the Page of Swords. We have the Tower. We have the Ten of Swords. And we have the Wheel of Fortune. And what an interesting Wheel of Fortune card this is. Okay. So one thing that I did here as I was shuffling was to take it slow. So maybe not rush the healing and allow some of it to just take the time it needs to take. And then there's some of that here with the wheel, but a strong thing that is coming through as far as advice for dealing with this situation, and with the Tower and the Ten of Swords here, allow it to be painful. Allow it to be one of the more painful things that you have had to deal with, because basically don't underestimate, or don't let other people underestimate the pain that you are dealing with as you process this relationship, because I am not going to give you advice to stay. I can tell that this is not good for you. You can do whatever you want. Ultimately, I don't think that there's any way that you will stay till the bitter end. Like, I think the bitter end has already come, and that it's a matter of accepting it. And unfortunately, this person is unhealthy and unwell, and that is why they have affected you so deeply. And it is painful, and it's not about you, and it is really sad, and a lot of painful energy is coming forward for me. I mean, this person has betrayed you on so many levels, and whether that is big things or small things, even just the fact that they have done harmful things, whether they meant to or not, have been betrayals, okay? And none of it has healed, because like we looked at before with that, like, the scab, it's like they pick and they pick and they pick and they hurt and they hurt and they hurt. And whether they mean to or not, it is causing incredible pain. Look at this Ten of Swords. You're this tiny little skeleton figure, and yet these are the biggest swords and blades that are coming for you, and it's like you're just incapable of doing anything other than being hurt, because in relation to this person, that's all that's ever going to happen unless they radically change. And even if they radically change, I don't know that they would change the dynamics between the two of you. And so there's a lot of painful feelings here about accepting the end and allowing it, and allowing it to be as painful as it is. And, again, with taking it slow, it's like, yes, going within and dealing with the pain of this is going to help you move through it more quickly. And, there is a little bit of quick energy here, but the healing process can be sometimes slow. Like they say, it can be non-linear. You can go through days where you feel free and light and peaceful and wonderful, and then days where it's heavy and dark and you're sad and angry and you miss this person and you wonder if it was your fault, and you feel very angry at the things that they did, and now you see everything in a new, darker light. It's like these back and forths and up and down and over here and over there. And so the advice here is to understand that that is likely to happen if you remove yourself from the situation, and that there is a lot of pain. It's very painful, but honestly, what you went through with them was painful. And so now you're going through the processing and the understanding of it. And while there is still pain there, the pain is basically working itself out. And so it's kind of just allowing, and, with the Tower, allowing this to be the end, allowing it to be the bitter end, to be an awful end, one that you never wanted. You didn't want it this way. You didn't want it at all. And it's unfair and unjust and all of those things. And basically, there's a lot of advice here to allow these feelings, these thoughts, and allow it to be what it was, and to see it clearly, because if you put on your rose-colored glasses at this point, then you're going to be trapped in it for longer. So it's time to see it as it is. And if this is writing things down that you remember, or reading things that you wrote down during the course of this relationship, or talking to other people about it, whatever it is that you can do to get sort of clarity and understanding of what you truly went through. And it is painful. It is painful to be treated this way, and to have your brain try to make sense of it. It's a really strange and confusing thing, but you're not meant to continue to live in this cycle with this person anymore. You are meant to begin again. And, the swords can really be about success and about things working out the way you need to. And this Page of Swords can be about starting that process. Like, this page looks a little bit uncertain, doesn't really know how to hold this sword, kind of like cocked at a weird angle, weird posture. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, that's okay. You don't know what you're doing. Like, no one knows what they're doing when they leave something traumatic or a big catastrophic end happens to them, even if it feels like you're being dramatic about it. This is advice to pick yourself back up, do your best to get back on your feet, and to get back to the business of doing things on your own. And not that you have to be alone or do any of this on your own, but there's a need to get in touch with yourself and your independence and your ability to pick yourself up and move toward a successful end. And the Wheel of Fortune, often to me, is a really positive card. So on the one hand, this is about allowing for this to be the end of a cycle. The 10 of Swords is an end often. The Tower is an end. And yet there is beginning energy here too. And it's sort of an uncomfortable feeling of having to begin in this way. But the wheel is often about beginnings and endings. And this can be about releasing yourself from a cycle, but also finding your grounded center despite all of the things that are happening around you and all of the feelings you're having and the thoughts you're having and all of the doubts and the questions. But also this big hand here feels like it is protecting you and offering you respite amidst this dark time, and that you also have these other people or spirits here that are helping you. And so lean on the support that is there for you. Don't be afraid to ask for help, both in the world and the people that surround you, and also in the spiritual realm. But basically here, what you're being told is this is painful. There's no way around that. This is painful and it is unfortunate and it's unfair and you don't deserve it. And yet, unfortunately, you're having to go through it. But there is so much on the other side. And really, it's like, it's like the message that I'm sort of getting is, yes, they could give you all these hearts and flowers cards because eventually it is going to be hearts and flowers. But right now, it's about realizing what's happening, choosing yourself, walking away, picking up this sword and saying, okay, I'm going to be in control now, and I'm going to lean on those that are here for me, and I am going to do things differently because this isn't working for me and I don't want to do it again. And so group 4, I think that's all I have for you today. I really genuinely hope that this was helpful for you in any way. I hope the best for you, and I hope that your healing process is easy and quick. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.